Contemporary music is ubiquitous. It's everywhere. It's in everything. And when we, as music leaders, as choral directors, whether it's a community choir or a church choir or a small ensemble, if we embrace a whole variety of music that welcomes more people.
Contemporary music is so pervasive in our culture that I just don't know a lot of people that drive around in their car and listen to choral music and classical works exclusively.
I know in our church there's a love of all kinds of music. There's a love of classical music, but there's a lot of people that like a lot of folk and pop, and often a lot of it's things from the 60s and the 70s and more recent things as well.
Even a classically trained musician who's never played any popular style music, never played any jazz or pop or folk, still has it in their ears.
There are a number of reasons why a choir or a choir director might choose to go with a more contemporary style of music.
I think it's sometimes putting a fresh spin on music, doing music in a way that somebody hasn't done it before, that adds a freshness to it and an aliveness to it, and can really bridge a relationship between the chorus and the audience.
The expression is what touches people in their hearts. That's what reaches folks.
There are a couple of different roles that I think choirs play when we do sort of contemporary pop styles.
Sometimes in contemporary singing, the choir's role is more support and less front and center.
You know, I'll tell my choir, okay, you guys are the Greek chorus here. So you're providing context, or you're providing commentary on what's going on.
So they become part of the fabric of the whole, part of the rhythm section, if you will. So they can kind of think of themselves like, I'm jamming back here with a bass player, this is awesome.
And then in other terms, there are times when the choir is taking the role of the soloist, and the choir really does take the main thrust. So you've got a whole choir of people singing, I feel, I do, I receive, et cetera, et cetera. It's just immensely powerful to have that much voice speaking as a single person.
Everyone's contributing their essence and their spirit with 100%. It's just like, let me show up and sing the heck out of this song. So we have a situation, let's just say your choir is very classically oriented, or maybe even does musicals, and this choir wants to start doing contemporary pieces. How do you transition and do it well? Some of the very common devices that you'll see changing between traditional classical styles and contemporary styles are vibrato, diction, and legato. You're singing words on pitch and then going up into your vocal mechanism, but if you're going more this shape, it's going to be hallelujah, that kind of sound, hallelujah, very different. That second one, by the way, doesn't hurt at all. You may not like it, that's okay, or you may not like the first one. Now we're talking about taste.
Anytime you make a change, there are always going to be people who, I don't know, can we do this? Can I do this?
Start with what's comfortable for you. So you might not want to start by hiring, a contemporary rock band to accompany your whole choir. Find one piece that might be in the more contemporary style. Maybe it's even a cappella. And start there. Start with what's comfortable for you.
So one of the things that I do with my choir to make this transition, or when I travel and do a workshop, the first thing I'll do before we even sing a note is rhythm. 3, 4, 1. 1. Don't speed up. 1. You're going to turn around. 1, 2, 3, turn around. Okay. The most important thing is for us to create a moment for the people who have taken the time to come to this place together with us, to enjoy that moment together. And it's no longer now about the choir. Now it's about them. It's about that community. It's about that connectivity. That's the most important thing. When that happens, when the choir director invites that to happen, that's magic. A lot of times people in choirs like blending in and don't want to be a soloist. So first you have to identify, is this person really a soloist? Or maybe you have a soloist who's just too afraid to give it a shot and would love it and would be great at it. So you want to encourage that person's individual voice to be heard.
So when I do auditions for solos, I mean, I might encourage voices that I know to audition for particular songs, but I let people self-select. So what do you feel, what do you want to sing? And some people try out for every solo, for every song, and some people just feel particularly called to one. And then I find the voice that matches that best.
It's a very different process than what you might use for a more classical style. Classical style, you're looking for the best singer. It's a very simple process in that sense. Pop is really more about telling this story to this audience, and it's a much more individual, intimate process in a lot of ways. So you really want the voice to be one that can tell the story better than anyone else in the choir. And that may not be the best voice by a lot of standards.
Microphone technique is an important part of contemporary singing. Well, these days everything is amplified anyway. And when a person is soloing, they're going to be on a mic. The reason we have a microphone is so you can sing over a band, but it's also a great tool to be able to sing. Let's see, can you give me a bossa nova? Just any key. I'll show you what I mean.
One of the most important things, I think, for especially new soloists, meaning soloists who haven't done a lot of solo work, is the support of their peers.
My choir, and I think we would hopefully, I hope most choirs, are a very supportive setting. We really nurture each other. It's a community of people. So yeah, you might be nervous, but it's not, okay, you're going to get up on stage now and perform in front of all of us. You're just going to try a verse, and then the chorus will back you up. And most people find that they actually really like it.
If the soloist is saying, wow, I get to sing a little bit on the mic, this is really fun. Wow, or this is really moving. This song is so important to me. I want to share how important this is to me with these people here today. Then even 5 words can be very powerful.
One of the ways that I work with singers is making sure that they have a personal relationship to the music that they're singing. It means something to them.
And when people focus on that and on communicating that, they can take that melody from that song, or whatever it may be, that everyone knows together, and risk being heard. Even if all they're doing is singing the melody, they're going to sound like themselves and like no one else.
So I tell my singers, always believe this. Always find some way for this to be the most important thing you've ever sung.
So now you're not telling the singer what to sing. You're saying make it your own. You're saying make it up. Put your feeling into it. So now you're becoming a producer instead of a director. That's the guy in the studio going, honey, that was fabulous. It needs a little more, you know. So that's where the role shifts a little bit.
I find that singers who have sung in a particular way without necessarily being versed in sourcing themselves emotionally when they're singing, when they do, they're hooked. There is something so magical and powerful and transformative when we allow ourselves to be present in mind, body, and spirit with the music.
When we do contemporary music, and it's just with a piano, it sounds very, very different than when you have a band. First of all, hands down, when you have a band, it's more exciting. It just is.
I rehearse with a pianist, rehearsal accompanist. He's fabulous. He can play anything. But when we bring in the band, the energy level of the chorus just goes up 100%.
Adding in a little percussion, adding a different instrument, all of that increases the tonal palette.
And that's part of the excitement of the music, is to feel the choir moving on top of the time, which is relatively consistent.
And it's really amazing what happens to your singers when you start to add some of those other elements. They'll start to loosen up a little bit.
Once you've got a rhythm section, it's really important to use them in the way that they're meant to be used, which is to keep the rhythm going.
But the timekeeping function, which I think is a bigger part of the role of a choral conductor in traditional choral music, that is transferred to the drummer. You know what I mean? The push and pull of the tempo is not, that's not your primary focus. You have other jobs to do.
So in rehearsal, the director is going to say, okay, drums and bass, here we want to slow down just a little bit and then bring it back to tempo. Here we want to do this, here we want to do that.
It is a learning curve. When I first started doing that, I was really uncomfortable. I'm a classically trained musician with contemporary musician's soul. So I didn't know how to speak the language.
If you're bringing in a band for a once in a while kind of a thing, and you're used to working with a choir and focusing on the choir, number one, get the choir to be independent. Bring in the band before the choir gets there and have them work out all of the stuff separate from your attention being on the choir, separate from them hearing the choir. They want to really focus on themselves, on that foundation.
It's going to take a pass or two for the players to figure out where their entrances need to be and what kind of feel works, if it's going to be more shimmery cymbals, if it ever gets into a groove.
I often work out the arrangements with the band. Like, I may not go in and say, all right, this is exactly how it's going to go, but we work it out together. It's a more fluid. It's not necessarily like handing out orchestra parts and having a rehearsal that way.
And there's a little bit of brainstorming session in the band. Then we run through it a few times. By the time we've gone through a couple of these iterations, it's starting to be our music as the band.